So we have looked at the primary constructors till now. Now let us look at secondary constructors. We will look at them in two steps. First, we will look at a class that has only secondary constructor and no primary constructor. And second, we will see a class where both primary and secondary constructors exist together. Let's look at this part first. So we will go back to our IDE and clear out this class first. Now let's declare the variables again. Then we write the keyword constructor, and inside parentheses we will write the variables along with their data types, just like we did for primary constructors. Then we create the body by using curly braces, and using the this keyword like we had done before, we will join the member variables to the constructor variables. It's very similar to how we had created the primary constructor before the code was shortened. Just that we do not need to use the init block here, since the secondary constructor can have its own body. So that is how we create a class which has only secondary constructors. Now let's look at the second case where both primary and secondary constructors can be used together. So let's create a primary constructor first. Now since these variables are already there in the primary constructor, why do we need another constructor? Well, sometimes we may want to have some other properties in a different constructor. So let's declare a variable called name for our secondary constructor. As we had done in the previous case, whenever we want to have a secondary constructor, we need to declare the variables and then create the constructor body. So we use the keyword constructor, and then inside these parentheses, we will have to pass the constructor variables for both the primary and the secondary constructors. We pass the primary constructor variables, and then here we have passed the variable name. Then we put a colon. Then we call all the primary constructor variables in the secondary constructor using the this keyword. Then we use the curly braces to create the constructor body. And like we had done before, we use the this keyword to assign the value of constructor variables to member variables. This part of the constructor declaration tells the compiler that these variables have already been initialized in the primary constructor, and hence they do not need to add them to the secondary constructor. Now let's go to our main function and create two objects, one which uses only primary constructor and another which uses both primary and secondary constructors. Now, secondary constructors are not used much in Kotlin. They are used only when we need to initialize a class in multiple ways, which is very rare. So, you need not remember all of it by heart. The reason for teaching you this was to give you a wholesome knowledge about constructors. Click next whenever you are ready.